In the 1870s, loggers in the forests of Michigan faced a problem that seemed impossible. Mountains of freshly cut timber lay stranded deep in the woods. The ground was mud, the slopes were brutal, and even the toughest horses collapsed trying to drag the logs out. Steam locomotives, which ruled the great railways of America, were useless here. Their steel wheels spun helplessly on crooked wooden rails, sliding backwards or derailing on the steep grades. Fortunes in timber were trapped in the forest. Then something strange appeared. A locomotive so odd it looked like a mistake. The boiler sat off to one side. A drive shaft spun along the frame like a giant egg beater. Gears clattered where pistons should have been. People laughed. They said it would tip over, stall, or shake itself apart. But when this bizarre machine met a 14% slope, a hill so steep most trains struggle at 3%, it simply crawled up the mountain. Slowly, relentlessly, without slipping. This was the Shay Locomotive, the engine that changed logging forever. And its story begins in the rough logging railroads of Michigan. These railways were nothing like proper mainline railroads. There was no carefully laid ballast or smooth grading. Track gangs simply spiked rails onto whatever timber they could find. Fresh-cut logs, stumps, or planks hacked flat with an axe. Every mile of track was temporary. When the rains came, the ground turned to swamp. Rails twisted and sank. Curves bent around trees. Sometimes entire sections of railway disappeared into the mud overnight. Grades could reach 6%, 8%, even 12%. For a standard locomotive, that was practically a wall. At first, the loggers relied on horses and oxen, but the mud swallowed them. Teams hauling heavy sleds often sank to their bellies on steep hills. Some animals simply collapsed from exhaustion. Steam locomotives seemed like the answer, but the rod locomotives used on the big railroads were designed for smooth, level track. In the woods, they were completely out of their element. Their rigid frames couldn't handle the sharp curves. Their wheels slipped on steep grades, and if a wheel lifted slightly off uneven track, the whole engine could derail. On a good day, a rod locomotive might climb a 2% grade. In the logging woods, that simply wasn't enough. The solution came from an unlikely inventor, a Michigan logger named Ephraim Shay. Shay wasn't a trained engineer. He had been a farmer, a school teacher, and later a sawmill owner. But he was stubborn. Standing in the mud beside derailed engines and dead horses, he began asking a simple question. What kind of locomotive would actually work here? Speed didn't matter. What mattered was grip and flexibility. Instead of driving just a few wheels with connecting rods, Shay designed a locomotive that powered every axle using gears. His engine had vertical pistons mounted on the side. A long drive shaft ran along the frame. Bevel gears carried power to every wheel. The trucks could pivot and twist beneath the engine, allowing it to crawl around tight curves and over uneven track. Because all the machinery sat on one side, Shay moved the boiler to the opposite side to balance the weight. The result looked bizarre, but it worked. When the first Shay locomotive appeared, many people laughed. The boiler looked crooked. The gears clattered loudly in the open air. Engineers from major railroads mocked it. One observer famously said it looked like a sawmill mounted on wheels. And it was slow, very slow. A Shay rarely exceeded 12 miles per hour, but speed was never the point. To prove the design, the loggers chose the worst hill in the camp, a muddy track climbing a brutal 14% grade. Rod locomotives had already failed here. Horses refused to even attempt it. With a full train of logs behind it, the Shay began to climb. Steam hissed. The drive shaft spun. The gears bit into the rails. Instead of slipping, the locomotive dug in. Every wheel was powered. every axle gripped the track. Inch by inch, the Shay climbed the hill, and when it reached the top, the logs were still behind it, every single one. Word spread quickly. Soon orders began pouring in for the strange sideways locomotive. The Lima Locomotive Works in Ohio began building Shay engines in large numbers. Between 1880 and 1945, more than 2,700 Shay locomotives were produced. They worked everywhere timber had to be hauled, in the forests of Michigan, the Rocky Mountains, the Sierra Nevada, and the Appalachian Hills. Some were small logging engines. Others were massive 3-truck machines weighing over 100 tons. But every Shay shared the same unmistakable design: the offset boiler, the spinning drive shaft, and the incredible climbing power. The Shay locomotive wasn't elegant, it wasn't fast, but it could go where no other locomotive dared. On twisted logging railways, muddy mountain spurs, and tracks that would defeat ordinary engines, the Shay simply kept going. Slow, ugly, unstoppable, and for decades, the sound of those clattering gears echoing through the forest meant only one thing: the logs were moving. The mountain had finally been beaten. If you enjoyed this story of one of the strangest locomotives ever built, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love railway history, engineering stories, and the incredible machines that shaped the world, please like the video, share it with fellow railway enthusiasts, and subscribe to the channel for more railway history every week.